Hello everybody, I'm finally back after probably almost a week's absence now, unless you count Average Gamer, which went up yesterday. But here come the excuses, and really I've been a pretty busy boy. I've been a bit of a Sony pony. I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, which is fantastic. If you've got a PlayStation, it's a must pick up game. And alongside playing Horizon Zero Dawn, I've actually been working pretty hard on Gamecast, which is a future project that I teased at the start of the year. And if you're a new subscriber or you just missed that video, don't stress because I didn't go into any detail then and I'm not really going to go into any detail now. All I will say is that this project has the intention to cause change and hopefully that'll happen. I've been primarily working on it myself. I have, however, in the last probably month started talking to a few other content creators, and that number's probably going to grow as well. And when we do finally nut out all the finer points and the details, we will fully reveal the project to you guys here on the channel. So hopefully that kind of excites you, and stay tuned for that. But excuses aside, we're actually here to talk about Xbox Game Pass. Now when we cut to the chase, Xbox Game Pass is a subscription service. It's going to cost $9.99 a month, and under that subscription, you get access to 100 Xbox titles on your Xbox One. And you don't actually stream these titles either, you actually download and store them locally on your console. Now it's important to note and remember that out of these 100 titles that will be launching, they may not be there 12 to 24 months from now. Much like we see with Netflix, titles will be coming and going, probably on a monthly basis. Now, in a way, I'm actually glad that it took me a few extra days to get this video out and recorded in comparison to everybody else, because it gave me a chance to listen to Podcast Unlocked, which is an IGN podcast. And on the latest episode, which came out a few days after the Xbox Game Pass news hit, they actually had Phil Spencer as a guest. So as you could imagine, they picked his brain about Game Pass, which unearthed some interesting points and details that we didn't initially know about. So bear with me because I've got some notes scribbled down in front of me, but the first point that he brought up that really caught my attention was that Game Pass has actually been in the works for the last 2 to 3 years. And it was in fact one of the first projects that he signed off on when he joined as head of the Xbox division for Microsoft. Now, according to Phil Spencer, the reason it took so long for Game Pass to finally reach us after 2 to 3 years was it takes a long time to get publishers and developers on board with a service like Game Pass. There's a lot of details to sort out, like royalties. So that was basically the main reason why it took so long, according to Phil anyway. The second point that really caught my interest was, one day he hopes to see episodic content release on Game Pass. So not games that are already out in the wild and have been for years. He wants episodic games like Hitman and the Telltale series games releasing on Game Pass. Now, he did say they haven't got any active plans to make that happen. It's just something that he is envisioning for Game Pass later down the line. And the last little piece of news that really caught my interest was, again, they haven't got active plans to make this happen, but he wants to see Game Pass be available on Windows 10. Now, the first thing that comes to mind with that is the only Xbox games that are available on Windows 10 are the Xbox exclusives, and they're built from the ground up for Windows 10. And that's not the case with the majority of the games that are available through Game Pass. A lot of these games are developed just for the Xbox, and a lot of these titles are 360 games, so I'm not sure how that one's going to play out. Maybe they'd have to deliver a streaming service for the Windows version. I don't know. It's just something that he brought up that he would like to see happen later down the line. But what do I think of Game Pass? Now, I'm going to share a little secret with you. My Xbox has been collecting dust for quite some time now. I was a week one investor of the Xbox One platform. I thoroughly enjoyed it for the first year, but I eventually ended up drifting off to the PlayStation 4, and that's now where I pretty much spend most of my time. And that's down to a couple of reasons. I do just prefer the controller on the PlayStation. I find it more comfortable. I feel like I can play longer extended periods of time with that controller, and most of my friends are now on that platform as well. And I haven't gone back to the Xbox console for the first party games because I'm now just playing them on my PC through Play Anywhere. So unfortunately my console's been collecting dust. But when I heard about Xbox Game Pass, it really snapped in my head, it really clicked, and I'm really excited because this will bring me back to the Xbox as a platform. I will be booting my console back up and subscribing to this service when it hits. And that's for one reason in particular. I would consider myself to be a fairly hardcore gamer. I don't play every game under the sun. The The only games that I do focus on are the big AAAs and the games that I do know I'm thoroughly 100% going to enjoy before I buy them. So that means I'm not buying all the other games that fall off to the side, things that I'm maybe just kind of interested about. I'm not prepared to go past that paywall to buy something that I may not love. So when we look at the Xbox Game Pass as a service, it has me really excited. Because like I said, I can't afford to and I'm not prepared to buy every game under the sun unless I know I'm going to enjoy them. So with Xbox Game Pass, I have a service which gives me access to 100 titles, and I'm not going to play all of them, but the point is I can dabble in as much as I want and decide whether or not I like it, which is not something I would have done before if I had to buy it. It's risk-free. And I'll admit, like sometimes you don't know if you're going to like a game until you actually start playing it, which is why I'm excited for Xbox Game Pass. Hopefully, and my theory is with this service and subscription, I can find new games that I enjoy for little risk. For me, the two big questions are, what does this service look like 5 to 10 years from now? Does it change the landscape for the way that we consume video games? Does streaming become a thing of the past, or does Xbox Game Pass eventually move into streaming? And lastly, how does this service affect secondhand retail of video games? Because we actually talked about this on the Average Gamer podcast, which went up yesterday. And one of the last points we covered was, does this affect secondhand retail with stores like GameStop and EB Games, all of your secondhand video game retailers where most of their money is made off secondhand retail? And funnily enough, after we recorded Average Gamer, news hit that GameStop's stocks had bombed, and that was in response to Game Pass. Because when you think about it, where do you get the games that are on this Xbox Game Pass service? You know, older games, titles that have been out for 5+ years or at least a year old. You don't buy them from the Xbox store or the PlayStation store and pay the marked up digital prices. You go to your local game store and you pull these secondhand games out of bargain bins for a fraction of the cost of what you could have got it for digitally on the stores. So that's an interesting one to think about. How does it actually affect secondhand retail in 5 to 10 years from now as well? But let me know what you think down below, guys. Are you excited for Game Pass? What are the big pros and cons you see to it? And how does this affect secondhand retail 5 to 10 years from now? Let me know down below. And as always, guys, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. My name's Sully, this is One Guy's Opinion, and we're going to talk in the next video.